I started my IU back in 2022. Because I watched a lot of movies/shows, I immediately made my own OC and incorporated her into the fandom. Now, my original concept for my IU was a human in a world of territorial bodies, and it stayed that way for a very long time. That was until I started high school. My creativity and imagination expanded, and I decided to make more OCs into their world. And soon enough, I started a story series called a Country Humans collection. I called them movies at the time, and the first story I wrote, which is still incomplete, was called The Girl with America's Powers: A New Beginning, and obviously the year was set in the same year I started the story, which was in 2023. After that, more movies were written down, though the full lore is still incomplete to this day, mostly because as I grew older, the concept of the story changes, as well as my writing and plot. The CH collection has up to 18 story arcs, all set in different time periods, starting from the very first story arc set in 2023 to the most recent story arc set in 2054, which is called Princess of Rebirth, Brooklyn's Second Reincarnation. Since I am also a part of multiple fandoms like Solar Balls and Poppy Playtime, my AU doesn't only consist of Country Humans. My AU is mixed with both Country Humans and Solar Balls, meaning both fandoms exist within the same universe. There could be a chance that more fandoms can be mixed in there as well, but that's unlikely for now. My AU currently hosts 2 fandoms, and it's going to stay that way for a while. All territorial bodies don't live on Earth. Instead, they live in a spiritual realm or planet. Her name is Athenia. Her origin is still unknown and not fully developed, but she is a spiritual world connected to Earth, which is why territorial bodies have the ability to travel to Earth through via portal and immediately disguise themselves as humans. All of them have lives set up on Earth. They have human names, careers, property, and much more. They live like normal humans alongside real humans. Their identity remains secret for multiple reasons, but the main reason is, imagine you find out the person you thought was human is actually a country, city, or state/province. People will treat you like literal celebrities, which includes crazed fans and harassment. People would then ask questions of their real life and the world they live in, as well as how to get there and back. People would ask sensitive questions like war and historical time periods. This is something mostly the organizations don't want the territorial bodies to go through. Especially with enough influence, people who work for and in the governments will most likely get involved. But back to Athenia. I created a map 2 months back. These territory-like sections are called prairies, and the territorial bodies live in the mainland, and the mainlands only. By Athenia's geography, you can tell she was mostly made for territorial beings, but they aren't the only inhabitants of Athenia. Think of creatures that don't exist on Earth, but seem like they live in our imaginations. Well, these creatures are 100% real in Athenia. The black lines represent the territory embodiments for different creatures, same way as territories for different people on Earth. Green lines represent different places within that territory, like states in America, and the purple lines represent the mountains of Athenia. Off in the distance is a vast ocean. Because I'd rather not limit myself to a full completed map, the Athenian Ocean holds many other prairies underwater, waiting to be discovered and emerge from the waters. But the ocean is something no inhabitant of Athenia has ever reached. It's like one of those invisible barriers in video games. Athenia isn't the only spiritual realm in my IU though. There's 2 more, and their names are Alone and Aleaverse. Not much geography is said about these 2 worlds, but they inhabited their own creatures as well. Alone is a spiritual world connected to both worlds, Athenia and Aleaverse. She is the wormhole, and yes, this was inspired by Stranger Things. Between Athenia and Aleaverse, Alone is a dangerous place. She inhabits her own humans called Alona humans, most of which are children. Alona humans, despite living and being from the realm, only have one purpose in life, which is escaping alone. But because alone is so dangerous, no one ever makes it out alive, not even children. No one except one, which leads to a Leaverse. A Leaverse has two parts. One part that mimics the real observable universe, and the other part which inhabits the celestial body's housing. The inhabited part of a Leaverse is called Nova Terra. Nova Terra was founded by Earth and continued to expand endlessly to inhabit all celestial bodies. It's like Earth 2.0, but it's very infinitely huge. There's no sun shining at the skies, because no star is as big as the observable universe. Instead, the skies are shined by a solar flare, rising every day and lowering every night. Gravity is also altered so celestial bodies can float around freely, though in a Leaverse, celestial bodies must stay in orbit. The observable universe and a Leaverse are not the same realms. The observable universe holds real planets, while a Leaverse holds their personifications and housing. Athenia is the main point of Earth travel, but alone is the bridge between both spiritual worlds. In Athenia, biology isn't normal. A territorial body can be born male, female, or even both, as well as reproduction. Female bodies can reproduce with other female bodies, and male bodies can also reproduce with other male bodies, but the chances of having offspring is lower than the average. But still very possible, it's not rare. Then of course the opposite genders can reproduce, as well as bodies who can possess both genders. I should also cover that half Athenians exist, meaning humans from Earth were once Athenians in their past lives, in some shape or form. They can also reproduce with Athenians, but it's also extremely rare since they're normal humans. The chances are 10%. Homophobia doesn't exist in Athenia because of this. Unfortunately, it still does on Earth, though sexism is still possible in Athenia as well. Of course, male bodies are deemed higher than female bodies, just like on Earth, but sexism is not as open as it used to be. And no, males don't have periods. Unfortunately, only the females do. And if you're both genders, it can sometimes alter. But the chances of having periods as a gender-fluid body is still rare. Currently, you know that New Jersey is dating Ellie or Elliot, who is a normal human. NJ did mention that it was wrong for him to date his own citizen, and that's mostly because of something called homophobia. In Athenia, some Athenians find it wrong or offensive if they date normal humans, especially if the Athenian is a territorial body. The belief is that they are meant to serve humans, and humans are supposed to host them. Therefore, there should be no type of sexual/romantic feelings for one another. Normal humans have their world, and Athenians have theirs. The two should not correlate. It's mostly the reason why NJ is not that open about revealing who Ellie is to anyone, but he doesn't really care about these standards because he obviously is deeply in love with Ellie. Territorial bodies possess two different abilities, awakenings and gifts. Awakenings are abilities a territorial body possesses based on their past life or their personality/influence. For example, Ohio has emotion energy manipulation. He can use either his or other people's emotions as weapons, but he also uses them as gifts like comfort, etc. His awakening is based on his character since he has a personality disorder and often uses his hoodie as an on and off switch to alter his personality and behavior. Italy is a flower bender. He can manipulate life cycles of flowers, flower formation, and create floral weapons like a sword with embedded flowers, for example. His awakening was based on his past life since he worked as a caretaker for the emperor of the Roman Empire. Gifts are abilities a territorial body possesses, but are not for their own use. Instead, they give their gifts to humans to show trust and loyalty. These gifts work as protection charms for the chosen humans to protect their loved ones, and even their cities. But they can only possess a gift from the territory they're from. For example, Miles C. Brooklyn is from New York, so New York chose her to possess her gift. Both abilities are extremely powerful. In a vid I posted 7 months ago, you can see a glimpse of Brooklyn's abilities. She fused both city and state gifts together, and together causes an extremely dangerous reaction when triggered. hence why she died, but her story is unfortunately extremely long, so she'll be explained in another video. Awakenings are extremely powerful as well. In fact, they're so powerful that when territorial bodies first awaken, they can go insane and hurt the people they either hate or love, unless they go through proper training. Abilities don't only exist within a territorial body or creature. They exist in objects and artifacts as well. My series will explain that in future episodes. This mostly applies to the Russian family, but yes, past empires can reincarnate into future countries, etc. This happens only by fate, nothing too special. Russian Empire and Russia and Mayu are in fact the same person, though their memories have been altered. In many AUs, Soviet is mostly seen as Ari's son, but in my AU, this is not the case. Soviet wasn't always a territorial body. He was once a young teenage human boy. His story starts during the Russian Revolution. His name was Valerian Ivanov. Ari found him one day freezing in the cold, half dead, so he took him back to Athenia and took care of him. From that day forward, Valerian became Ari's ward. It wasn't long until Valerian turned into Soviet himself, but part of how he became him is still not confirmed. It's possible humans can turn into territorial bodies, but it's extremely rare. Valerian only had a small chance of that happening, and yes, Russia is Soviet's son along with other countries related to Soviet. This is practically the most sensitive part of my IU, mostly because of the events surrounding this part. But I have a lot of plot for these types of Athenians, and because it's a lot, there's a chance some things may offend somebody, which is another reason why I barely post about them. But I am going to explain their existence, and note, this particular part is not supposed to offend anyone. It's simply a part of a fictional world, so please don't take it to heart. Architectural bodies are buildings personified by their country, state, or city. Most of them are very famous buildings within a city. Territorial bodies can take them as their children, but that's not the case for some arcs. Some territorial bodies can personify their buildings, but won't take the place as becoming their parent, which is the cause for UAE and Burj Khalifa. Though, New York personified many arcs and took the parental role, meaning Empire State Building, Freedom Tower, and both Twin Towers are her confirmed children. Which is why in a reaction video I posted not too long ago shows New York referring the twins as her daughters. Architectural bodies have no age and numbers, but they can still have birthdays, which is the day of their completion, and still age from a child's body to an adult's body. But they can still be any age they want because of the fact that they literally have no number age. Arcs often like to be called as architectures or arcs rather than buildings. I mean, they prefer it that way anyway. But they are more sensitive to emotions and their 5 senses than humans, meaning that they're prone to falling in love or get angry really easily, and because of the material they're made of, they can endure extreme pain and weather conditions. Also, their bodies, despite being in a human-like body, they aren't exactly flesh and bone. Think of a doll or mannequin, for example. While arcs still have skin and can bleed, their skeleton is not necessarily bone, but their skeleton is made of strong materials like steel. Their inner skin can be made of either metal or glass, but their outer skin is made of normal human flesh, but it's thinner than human skin, which gives them glass skin effects, especially arcs that are made of glass, like Freedom Tower. Arcs don't possess any abilities, magic-wise, but they can sometimes glow due to the lighting, and their nails can grow longer when they're activated, usually when they're angry. Governmental bodies aren't born or created, they exist within the mind of a country or empire. Same goes for the organizations. They can't feel any romantic feelings either. Governmental bodies only act a certain way based on the president and the people in office. As for the genders, they can only change genders based on the president's gender. But if the government is a monarchy, they are gender fluid, based on the kings and queens. They aren't born evil, but they can be influenced to be that way. They also possess their own abilities, which is using static to their advantage. They can control countries to do bad things. You'll notice this when their eyes turn static. But as for America, he's being controlled only when he's wearing his shades to cover up the fact that he's being controlled by Gov. Though, this doesn't excuse the harmful things countries do when they're not being controlled. Take Imperial Japan, for example, during the bombing of Pearl Harbor and the Nanjing Massacre. In Athenia, when Athenians die, they go to the void of death, where they can be isolated for centuries, unless they find a way out. Once they do find a way out, they become physical angel beings, or spirits called Athen angels. Most fallen territories are in the void of death, but territories like West Jersey, East Germany, and upstate New York made it out, becoming Athen angels in physical bodies and reunited with their families. Ships included in MIAU are Russia/RE x America, Soviet x Third Reich, Doom Diawi, Spain x Italy x Portugal, France x UK, Japan x Fiji, Palau x Nauru, Doom Diuri, Cuba x Venezuela, Doom Diawi, New Zealand x Bahamas, Florida x Puerto Rico, New Jersey x Elliot or Ellie for short, New York x Hong Kong, Panama x Costa Rica, China x Thailand, West Jersey x Maggie, Ohio x Lillian, Philippines x Taiwan, Confederate x Filipino Triple K, Imperial Japan x Italian Empire, Ukraine x Canada, Netherlands x Indonesia, Netherlands x Norway, divorced, Greenland x Antarctica, and Vatican City x San Marino, inspired by a friend. I also have many others, but those are all I can think of at the top of my head. Anti-humans is what started my IU in the first place, with my very first OC, which is Audrey. Anti-humans are humans who are not born normally, but were created instead, with genes of territorial bodies or pairs, who simply can't have kids. They're not from Earth, same with Athen humans, but Athen humans are just human inhabitants of Athenia. They can be born, unlike anti-humans. Audrey was created on July 4th in a capsule by America and her mother, Alicia. Both agreed to set Audrey up for adoption, hoping that she would have a better life on Earth than Athenia. They gave her up to an American family who treated her like shit, more like a servant than a daughter. Audrey was reunited with her real family when she turned 16. Since she was chosen by America to possess his gift, the portal leading to Athenia appeared in front of her and sucked her in, causing her to land in the forest of the mainlands. Though Audrey was my first OC, she wasn't the first anti-human. Alicia was. Alicia is actually Native America in a human body. Native faked her death, causing her family to believe she died of disease, but continued to live her own life, which is how some states were born. Native's awakening was the ability to create life, which is how her children were born. She didn't need to reproduce with anyone. And by the way, almost all territorial bodies have this ability. During the Cold War, the capsule America used to clone soldiers gave Native to use her abilities to her advantage. She messed around with the mechanics, which caused America to create a human child, an anti-human. He then named her Alicia. Native then paired her souls with Alicia, so she possesses two bodies, Alicia's body and her own. America raised Alicia and the states did as well. To this day, no one knows Alicia was actually Native America, not even Audrey.